I assume you're in one of my German sections and you're watching because you couldn't see the board in Zoom. And for that, I apologize, but I'm just going to quickly go over what I covered in class this morning, and hopefully that will be helpful and make up for anything you might have missed. So, ich habe mit Konjugationen angefangen. I started with conjugations. So, conjugations are the ways we adjust a verb to fit a specific noun or pronoun. So if I'm talking about myself, I can refer to I. So I am, you are, they are, he, she, it is. These are conjugations in English of the verb to be. To be. And verbs are, of course, conjugated in German as well. However, they're conjugated, like, I guess you could say more intensely than in English, because we have so many pronouns that have the same conjugations. So the way I've been dividing this, as you've seen, is into singular and plural. First person, second person, third person. So we have our first person singular pronoun, I oder ich. Plural, wir, we. Du is informal, singular, and then informal plural, as in y'all or you guys. This is ihr. And then we have sie for the formal, singular, and plural. And then finally, as, yes. So just real quickly, I can do a review of to be in German. So sein is the infinitive, and this is not a regularly conjugated verb, just something to remember. So ich bin, du bist, wir sind, ihr seid, sie sind und wieder sie sind, sie, es ist. That one's similar to English. He, she, it is. Und sie, lowercase, they sind, they are. So, I'm going to get rid of this real quick. I'll just get rid of all of it. So on the second day of class, we went over heißen, which is to be named, to be called something, like ich heiße Claire. And this is a regular verb. So since we already did heißen, I'll introduce one of our new words, kommen. To come. So kommen ist unser Infinitiv. It's our infinitive. We're going to make this table again. And the patterns for the endings are going to follow, like I said, the same ones we used for heißen, and because that's not up, I'll just put them in here. So in German, typically verbs will end in en, so this is our verb ending, and we're gonna leave that out when we consider how to conjugate. So we can split off the stem here, der Wortstamm, it's a word for the stem. So ich komm, du komm, wir kommen, ihr kommt, sie, formal, kommen, and that's going to be the same. Sie, es, kommen, und sie, lowercase, they, kommen. And I'm going to change the color for these endings. Let's see, what color should we use? Let's go with this pretty blue, blueberry. Sounds tasty, lecker. So ich komme, wait, that's not blueberry, that's black. Okay, let me. Ich komme, wir kommen, du kommst, ihr kommt, sie kommen, sie, es kommt und sie kommen. So regular verbs, or so-called weak verbs, when you conjugate them, will all follow this pattern of endings. You might see some exceptions, like with heißen. I also said this in class, but because we have this sz that is already two s's, we don't need to add another s because we already have that sound in the stem. But generally speaking, this is the pattern we will follow. So das ist ein schwaches Verb, a weak verb, meaning it's a conformist. It forms itself to the pattern. So kommen is to come. We had a W-Frage, a W question attached to this verb that we went over today. Und zwar, woher? So we're gonna ask someone where they come from. So as with wie heißt du oder wer bist du, we're gonna put our question word first. Woher? Woher kommt? Conjugated verb in the second position. Let's say Angela Merkel. So then we'll answer as we would in English by starting with our subject, which we can substitute with the pronoun sie, because it's Angela Merkel is a she, so sie kommt, choosing that sie conjugation. Then here's our preposition aus. Deutschland, well actually she's from the former East Germany. That was technically a different country than the Federal Republic of Germany, Bundesrepublik Deutschland, when she was born and when she grew up. So we could say sie kommt aus der DDR. That stands for Deutsche Demokratische Republik, German Democratic Republic, and that was East Germany. So aus is out of or from. So you come from a place, and when we use this question word, woher, we're always asking where from someone has come. And that rhyme there personally helps me to remember it. All right, I'm going to move on real quick. Oh my, what have I done? Well, I guess we can be flexible and switch to white. It'll be like the single cover, the single for Enjoy the Silence by Depeche Mode, which is not related to German at all, just something on the mind. So, Mitternacht, midnight. We'll do white, shake things up a bit. Okay, so ich komme, also ich persönlich, aus Chicago. Aber ich wohne nicht mehr in Chicago. I don't live in Chicago anymore. I'm from Chicago, but I live in Iowa City. So that brings us to our next verb, wohnen. That is to reside, to live. And what helps to remember this one is this wo, because we're going to connect it to the question word wo, where. Wo wohnst du? We'll just carry down the stem here. So we have the typical en ending. So wohn is our stem, and we're just going to add our standard endings to that stem. So ich wohne, wir wohnen, du wohnst, sie wohnen. Again, sie, ihr wohnt. Er, sie, es wohnt. Und sie, they wohnen. So we could ask, for example, where do the students live? The students at the University of Iowa. Could just say wo. Since it's a they, we're going to use this form here. So sie wohnen, wo wohnen die Studenten? Again, same structure. We've got our W-Frage, so our Fragewort, our question word, our conjugated verb, and our subject, the students, and we would answer pretty much the same way as we would in English. We'd say the students live in blah, 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 or they. We can substitute die Studenten mit sie. So sie wohnen in Iowa City. All right. So we had the preposition aus, and now we have in. This one is similar to English, so it shouldn't be too hard to remember that wohnen, to live somewhere, to reside somewhere, goes with in. For me, I always take note of how in and aus sound just like in and out. So you don't live out of a place per se. Like that's not grammatically correct, I don't think. But you can come out of a place to a new place. You could come from a place. So ich komme aus Chicago. But ich wohne in Iowa City. All right, wir machen mal neu. So, woher kommst du? Wo wohnst du? And in class today we had one other question word in a W-Frage, und zwar welche? And I also said in class, we don't really differentiate in everyday language between which and what. So you could say, what languages do you speak? And people will be fine with that. In German, there's more of a differentiation. So there you differentiate it from was, which is what, so just say X, cross that out. So welche, which. As a mnemonic, you can think Welch's. I think they make grape juice. They might make jelly as well. So grape jelly, you put it on your sandwich. So, welche, which, and we have a noun here. Welche Sprachen? So what languages or which languages? Languages. Nouns are capitalized in German, no matter where they are in the sentence. This is a contrast to English. So if you see this in the sentence, you see the capital S and it's not the formal Z, you know that it's going to be some sort of noun. So Sprachen. A noun, of course, is a person, place, or thing. So noun, capitalized. Now we come to our verb if we're going to ask someone which languages they speak. So das Infinitiv, the infinitive, the unconjugated verb is sprechen. to speak. So we've got our en ending in our stem, sprech. However, das ist ein starkes Verb, a strong verb. And these verbs are strong enough to break the pattern, not in the endings, but in the way that they employed the stem of the verb. So let me go through this real quick. In German, for strong verbs, typically, I'm sure there are exceptions to this, but typically only the du form and the as form are implicated in the breaking away, the aberration, deviation from the pattern. Oops, das wollen wir nicht. I'm just gonna change colors here. Ja, das geht irgendwie auch nicht. So, Mitternacht. Ich mache das mal wieder. Just do that over. And we'll do, how about turquoise? I wonder if it'll clash with this midnight blue or not. We'll see. So du and as. He, she, it. These are going to be conjugated differently. Everything else is following our regular pattern, so we can move down our stem and add an ending. So ich sprech. I'm just going to add the stem everywhere. So wir sprech, ihr sprech. Sie, formal, sprech. Und sie, they, sprech. And as before, we're going to go in and add our endings. Oh, let's do yellow. This is going to look really ugly, I'll bet. Cantaloupe. We have blueberry before, then cantaloupe. This is just making me hungry. Jetzt habe ich Hunger. So, ich spreche, just an I. Wir sprechen. Ihr sprecht. Sie sprechen. Und sie sprechen for both the singular and plural. So we're going to follow these same ending patterns for the du and as forms. So we could put st, which is our du ending, and then as, just a t. But our stem is going to change. And just one vowel is changing, so du, choose another color, ice. Some ice with our berries and cantaloupe. Du sprichst. Und as, sprich. It's not written very well, but essentially all that's happened is we've changed the stem from sprech, which is regular, to sprich, which is irregular. All right, mach das wieder mal weg. Make that disappear again and go back to our nice midnight blue background. I apologize if you hear the road construction going on in the background. So as before, our question word was welche, which. So welche Sprachen, we could say welche Sprachen sprechen die Studenten. And we can say sie sprechen Englisch und Deutsch. So die Studenten sprechen Englisch und Deutsch, and we're capitalizing again here because these are nouns, not because they're proper nouns, which are capitalized in English, but that's a lesson for another day. So die Studenten sprechen Englisch und Deutsch But if I want to ask, like, what languages does the man speak? How about Hans? Stereotypically German. So, welche Sprachen spricht Hans? And he's so German, he just does not want to learn any other language. So we could say, spricht, he speaks nur Deutsch. He's so German, he only speaks German. Nur, only. We don't necessarily need this. We could just say, spricht Deutsch. So, Hans spricht Deutsch und die Studenten sprechen Englisch und Deutsch. So, just go over this one last time quickly. Our question words and the verbs we've associated with them so far. So, Mitternacht. We have wer, our false friend, who. And we've talked about wer bist du, ich bin Claire, for example. So we've associated this with sein, to be. Who are you? I am so-and-so. Wer, woher? So, wo. This is where we are now, where we're living perhaps. Woher is where we've come from. So, say where from. Where from do you come? And we've associated this with the preposition as well. Aus. Ich komme aus Chicago. Out of. And the verb, of course, kommen. So wo is just where. And the question we've looked at here is, where do you live? So wo wohnst du? Wo wohnen Sie? Ich wohne in der Stadt, in the city, im Dorf, in the village. So in is our preposition, just like in English, and we use the verb wohnen. So kommen, wohnen are both regular. Sein is irregular. Then we have welche. So welche Sprachen, what languages. So welche is which. And we did sprechen. And before we had wie, how. So wie heißt du? How are you called? So wie heißt du? Wie heißen die Studenten? Und so weiter und so fort. So we'll talk more about regular and irregular verbs in the future, but just quickly before I adjourn here, if you weren't able to see it in class, there's this website that hopefully you can see, verbformen.de. So verbforms.com, essentially, verbform.de. And we can look at our verb. So sprechen, for example. Unregelmäßig would be irregular. Regelmäßig is regular. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit. So right now we're just looking at the present tense. So not I spoke, but I speak, I am speaking. So here we have our endings. They're all in green. They're just regular endings. But then we have this highlighted I, sprich. So that's where we're changing our stem. We could try one. You might have noticed from the instructions in your book, lots of lesen, read. Lesen is another strong verb. So unregelmäßig, irregular. And so if we scroll down, we see all of our endings have not changed. But for the du and the as es form, we're changing our center vowel from e, to this diphthong, I-E. I. So ich lese, du liest, er liest, wir lesen, und so weiter, and so on. All right, so I hope that helps, and I apologize for the technical difficulties earlier and for not paying closer attention to the Zoom chat. So, ciao!